Meeting held into order at 5:32 p.m. We are now holding the 13th meeting of the 52nd Graduate Professional Student Council of Senate. Attendance is on the minutes again, and so if you click the link in the drive, if you have access to this, otherwise, if you type this in, you should be able to access the attendance form. It'll take a few minutes to do that now. Ben will let us know when we have quorum. Either in the agenda or go to that. Are we there? Is there anyone here still working on it? So as we come in, try to be signing in, and then hopefully we can speed up this kind of little attendance time right now. So it's either link to the agenda, or you can click the link or type in the URL on it. Record? Okay. All right. Previous minutes. I'll pull it up on the website. You can click it in the agenda. So I'll scroll through it fairly slowly right here just so that everyone can see it. We had elections. Reports from officers, reports from committees. Spent quite a bit more time in committee meetings. And then we passed the organizational name update 37-3. And then gave prior notice for our constitutional annual review. And just as a reminder, we have a meeting on April 30th. And there were some announcements. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from our last meeting? All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, so name and department. And a second. All right, so physics seconds it. All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Okay, minutes passed. Right, we don't have a special educational presentation. We're going to hear from the Postdoc Association. We're going to shift that to occur at our first meeting in the fall semester. Up first, administrative comments, Dr. Schweller.
Howdy. So first off, I just wanted to thank y'all. Last week was Community of Scholars, so for Graduate Professional Student Appreciation Week, and I wanted to thank Ben, Turner, and the leadership team, and everyone who volunteered. We had 3 really great events. I hope y'all were able to come out for at least one of them, and hope you had fun. If you have any feedback or things you'd like to see next year, please just let us know. And then my only other announcement is that we are starting a new initiative. It's called the Joint Prairie Humana Texas A&M Professional Development Series to increase opportunities for graduate professional students at our campus and at their campus, as well as strengthen the ties between the 2 universities. And so our first session will be held at Prairie View A&M, and it will be on networking and LinkedIn. So from 4 to 5 will be a session on LinkedIn, and then from 5 to 6 there will be a reception where y'all can practice the networking skills that you just learned about. We will be providing bus transportation for the first 50 students who register, departing at 2:45, and we expect feedback on campus by 7:15. So there's more information on their webpage, and if you have any questions, just email us. Thank you.
Right, So we got copies of this as we came in, distributed to your graduate professional student organizations, and it's linked in the minutes if you want to send a copy out to your groups. All right, advisor comments? Student body president Burnett.
4 things to keep it quick today. First of all, about the next week, you're supposed to be getting a few emails asking what it is. And it's not happening this spring, it's happening this summer. So just a heads up if you guys get questions. Not this thing, but it's obvious. If you graduate, you need to plug it. Otherwise, next thing is the engineering roundtable. I closed the goal. I kind of got a majority of 11 saying they wanted to do it on Thursday, April 25th, from 5:30 to 6:30. They're expecting another email to talk about that. It's very, etc. But in the meantime, if you're an engineering representative, for example, talk to your departments, find out what they're facing problems. I don't each of you have individual problems, things like heat that they caught us, but there are other issues in the before for all of you to discuss what's happening. So look forward to that, and I hope that you guys come out, invite me on the department. Next thing, chairs next year. So if you're interested in taking on a leadership position, doing a bit more figuring out campus work, there's very much a lot of experience you can have in the chairs. It's done a lot, and learn a lot how to do useful if everyone's done it higher. But I know the chairs will be more than happy to talk to you and reach out and see what positions like. Yeah, it closes on Friday. The Apple committee, I know about relationships with our advisors, etc. I finally had 5 people. I can number there now. They're pretty diverse group of people, so I have STEM, I have liberal arts, pretty diverse group of individuals. We're going to get started on a few things.
Great. Ben, can you share us?
Yeah, so those are on the minutes, are on the agenda, will be on the minutes, will be the email, and you got an email from Nicole as well. So you have no excuse to not have a link. And as we mentioned, we're using new Google Forms to keep track of attendance and to vote now. So I'm going to try to put a link shortener on the title as well, so that if you have if you don't have the drive open, you can get to it. We'll see.
Ben,
you need to use your not only at TAMU.edu, that you have as the student.
we're hoping that'll go faster. We recognize it's a little slower now, but the point would be ideally we would just know we wouldn't have to like pause and count stuff. For sure, for voting, we think voting will go a lot faster. Advocacy committee.
So the climate survey has officially been released. I was not here for the last meeting, but we've talked about presenting that information to you all, so perhaps at the next meeting we'll discuss that next meeting, our next meeting. There is a stand-up event next week, April the 24th, from 5 to 8:30. You can register for it. There will be a dinner provided. How do you think for any of your graduate student organizations? Registration open for that this week. So it's a great time to recruit graduate students for organization is in August. So it'll be the incoming portion of the fall semester. Semester is next Monday, 7 p.m. at the arena. I've linked all of the things that we need to reach all of those. And then those resolutions are still in development, working on it. And then the distance education, this is the letter from our department, correct? Okay. Do you want me to talk about it?
We talked about it in the advocacy group last time, but if anyone has new information, maybe you guys can discuss that.
Okay, yeah. They're reducing the number of distance education courses that we
community. So we've got, yeah, we've got game night.
Yeah, game night is postponed. We're finishing May. We have to find out anything yet. Bowling's this Friday. At 6:30 at the station. There's I think 14 spots left, so sign up soon. And it's free. If it's not free, it's like $3. I think it's free. Then we got the GPSG banquet at on a week from Monday. So 13 days from now, 6 to 8 p.m. In that before following. Yeah.
Right. Travel.
Not sure Daniel talked about this already, but I'm requiring cyber registrations for fall travel. So be eligible for fall travel warrants, make sure that over the summer have said that ready for your park. And secondly, we have travel warrants due May 1st, and so travel due June 1st, March 1st.
Okay, so ideally, as your GSOs select their new representatives or appoint them or whatever process you follow, you've been bringing it with. We see a few groups are doing that, but also submit that registration form so that we know who you're moving for. All right, SRW report.
Okay, hi. My name is Prakhar. I'm the director for the Student Research Week. So we had a Student Research Week from March 18 to 22. Our theme of the year was Prospect, Collaborate, and Transform. So this is a brief overview. So we had 858 competitors this year, which were divided into 852 sessions. There were 196 judges, 86 volunteers, and 282 graduate students with 572 undergraduate students. And we had 112 winners and 14 colleges were represented. So this is the graph from last 4 years. You almost had equal numbers from last year. Last year they had 874. This year we had 858. So if you see the undergraduate competitors, majority were from engineering and vet med, and there were students from almost all of the colleges that you can see. Similarly, for the graduate competitors, majority were from engineering. We had a lot of graduate students from College of Agriculture and liberal arts and sciences as well. So if you see about the judges, so majority of the judges were from engineering, and most of 57% of them were still graduate students, either masters or PhD. But we had more number of postdoc researchers and faculties this year. One of the main things that we have done this year is inviting alumni around the Brand Police Station areas to come visit the event and judge one of the sessions. So these were the updates that we did this year. So one of the things that we have provided the option of recording the full presentations for all the people who consented to give us through. So another one was we organized 2 preparatory workshops this year, one for poster presentations, one for oral presentations. And there is we invited the alumni to judge the event. We decided to have a better timeline of registration this year and increase the awareness as well. So this is about a little bit about the oral presentation recordings. So this year we had 207 oral presentations. Out of them, 110 opted to record the presentation, and we have given them back their professionally edited videos last week. So we have also bought all the camera sets and accessories this year, which can be used in the upcoming years as well. So next year, the student research week will be from March 16 to 20. So we look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you so much.
And then Greg Camp, we're conducting your interviews right now, and we hopefully will know the director that soon. All right, for committee breakups today, we'll be back in here at about 6:10. Many of the committees are starting to wrap up business for the year, and that's okay if we're at that point. Tonight, we're going to focus on annual review of our constitution and bylaws, which is a big process. So if your committee is finished, please open up the agenda and load the bill. And then within the bill, there's a link to the recommended changes to the constitution and the recommended changes to the bylaws. So if your committee is done, use that time to maybe facilitate moving through our reviews a little bit faster. So 6:10 is when we should be back in this room. All right, let's get going.
It's much better when you do this than like you just show up and calling out an idea what's going on. Send me an email behind me, right? So everyone is agreeing on P2 who like continues to move that goes on the thing up to link like three days per organization. But definitely after 2 weeks from today, then you will definitely be on the website. Because then I'll say yeah, yeah. So if you want to know what you want to yeah, but anyway, so what I mean is like for being officially a senator, for next year, that's going to be so not very announcement, but there's going to be a form to sign up. Yes, me and Miguel and I do all yeah, right. So they're going to send me an email. I actually see for him, so I copy you to the email list. So after this, so if you also say you put on the still otherwise I'll say that you have to put 20 to 20 and then second after. Great.
Simple. All right. Advocacy, you guys done? All right, we're done with committee meetings, move back into unfinished business. So some of the committees asked questions about it. Bill 5207 was our organizational name change where we switched the word council to government and changed GPSC to GPSG in our constitution. And that is not reflected in the current constitutional amendment because Verna has not signed that piece yet. I want to be a little bit clear that going through our constitutional review, we noticed that there's some big holes and issues that we need to fix within our constitution. And we'll talk through those in a little bit. But one of them is that it doesn't ever designate powers on who can do what. And so in a typical government, like the legislature would pass a bill, and then the president signs it or vetoes it, and then it comes back to the legislature if you can override that. Our rules say nothing about that. And so right now, we don't know how to really navigate the system. Ultimately, what's happening is there's bigger conversations in play with the administration about what this could look like. And they're good things, but those things maybe take time. And so Perna's decided to wait on it. We don't really have any options on what that looks like. I guess there's two routes you all can take here. Is you can wait on this, and we can do this slowly and kind of trust the direction he's having. Or if you would like to send a stronger message, you can force the override, even though we don't really have an option without him signing on it, and do that now. And then he would just use a different argument saying the graduate student body supports this even without the signature. So this is kind of the update on where that's at. Our constitution doesn't define any of our powers or duties or responsibilities in this. So we're just trying to treat it as if the amendment we're going to pass later tonight is already in place. So he hasn't signed this piece because he thinks there's bigger conversations in play. If you feel strongly that you would like to have it reflected anyway, you're all able to do that. Is there any discussion on the old business? I know that was a little confusing. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess in general, I just want to see exactly where you say that the resolution by attorney had regarding how the funding being changed to GPSC that cannot be changed yet.
Yeah, and really we don't know what to do. Like in the past, we've never had anything that was controversial. So the second it's done, we just send it out and it's finished. This one, it's not necessarily controversial. He just has a different plan than we do in this space, and that's not putting him against us. It's just he interacts in different spaces than we do. We don't have the ability. Like in real life, our current recommendation after 14 days it would become law if he didn't veto it, and if he did veto it, it would come back to here, and we would have the option to override it. Those things don't exist right now. And so we can either continue to let it sit that way unsigned, or you all can choose right now to override it. And he's okay with either option. I think the one option allows him a little bit more authority to have political conversations. The other one just gives him a document to talk with.
So essentially, while we perceive ourselves as a government, not every group on campus as well. And as a result of that, I'm sort of having conversations with them saying this is what the graduate students want. They know that could, like, that sort of takes a few nerves with me, but I can fight it. But essentially, things like that are what we learn over change. But I want to make sure that they understand that we are we've always operated like one. And we wrong with that. So I'm waiting to have those conversations, and then I do want to sign it. It's great, but not for this.
So it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not necessarily listed as more of a time, just reading past. My question then would be, why did we why do we care so much about
Right, because at the end of the day, technically, it's student body president who is directly in charge. They represent us as well. We're working on some things that maybe not that's sort of why we're having this conversation now. It's just that, and we want to just put this in place to have it. And we want people to that want to we want to solve that. That bigger picture is like a lot behind the scenes, and I have to let this off to people. So I make sure I'm not going to get too much negative backlash. I have an ideal timeline, but realistically, like, I don't know how long we were. That's the big.
Okay. Okay, my question is, so in the event there is a lot of negative backlash, do you think that's gonna sway your perception of science? I feel like, what I understood is that if there's a lot of negative backlash and administration or undergraduate student government, that it may persuade you not to sign up, if you come back to the meeting and say like, hey, we're supposed to do that, and they don't wanna collaborate anymore, rather than us just being like, wham bam, we're government. Let's rock. I don't know.
Well, and I want to kind of shift the conversation. Ultimately, our bodies are different. He's in charge of executing our pieces, and there's conversations that he's privileged to that we don't need that information. We shouldn't know that information. And so I think it's tough if we continue to grill him here. I don't think he's in a position where he can sign it. He is in a position where we can choose to override it, and then he would approach it differently. He would say, I chose to wait. They forced the issue. They feel strongly about it. How do I navigate this? Or we can pause and let him navigate it, recognizing that this might be an indefinite timeline. I think those are two pieces. I don't really feel comfortable pressing on it because he's not supposed to share all of that information with us because they are high level conversations.
I was straight up, I'm okay with this going either way. If you guys really feel strongly about it, please move forward and saying, now we are sitting on it. We're going to completely time by it because that's what you guys want. But I feel like I'm pretty transparent. Usually if I'm not, it's for a very good reason. I've been open with all you guys. But let's see how it goes. I'll let you guys make the decision. I'm okay with it.
So I don't really understand the logic. We are going to go and have conversations. And we connect with even running what we got for this entire time. Wouldn't that be, wouldn't like a game changer, but that one be a bit stronger argument if all of us here say like, hey, we support this. You can also go and say like, it's not just me, but to my own horn, this is what people think of it. Like, doesn't that help your piece?
I don't know what to do.
That's my one saying either way, I'm okay with it. It means that, okay, I had this path that I want to take, but if you guys say, no, we want to sign this, then I'll just take a parallel path that's a little bit different. But at the end of the day, the whole thing, it has to be the same, so we'll be okay with it. It just, it means what we call GPSG for navigation until the next potential review. I'm not sure when we'll change things.
Great area.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things that I do as a student is sit on the student affairs fee advisory board, and I represent the undergrad student government for that, which is kind of weird, but one of the things, listening to one of their presentations about like, what they do, it seemed like they were trying to grow like the graduate students that they had in their undergrad government, which seemed very sweetly. So I was like, that was just kind of a weird experience I had. They're like, that's new thing from this graduate course. So, I don't know, I'm a little confused by that, but I can see where maybe the extension is coming in here, where it's like, I don't know.
And it differs. In certain spaces, they're very good at recognizing both groups, and in other spaces, it's not, and we have to kind of ask to be represented in that space. History, years ago, we did have representation in SGA. It was certainly not representative of our population, like 20% of the seats were graduate students. And so we've talked on that, like if they were to ever go that way, which we probably don't support, there need to be some minority clauses too. Otherwise, we're always going to be this super tiny block that gets ignored. And so I don't know that our leadership, cannot speaking for Perna, is super supportive of the idea of seats in there. Like they were dissolved at one point, and I think we would probably continue to support that. But everyone's always looking for new ways to do more of it. So I know that they did it before, they may look at it again. We probably don't support it. Other thoughts?
So it seems like you're almost too fast, and you say you're trying to do it.
Yes, I mean, my personal feelings are not as important as what you guys do. Like, you guys represent, I would like to say 50,000, but not even from you, but essentially you guys represent a huge part of the body, and I'd rather go with what this group wants than what I.
Maybe for you have so you know your opinion. I don't know. I just want you to sell that. Why?
I think by saying more like get the conversations, so that's why I'm not choosing to share this with you guys.
It's just two different paths. If we wait on it, when administration knew possibly make this a more meaningful group, they would say, and this is a change we propose. If we choose to force it, it would just be a look. They already feel strongly about this issue, and this is evidence for that change. The administrative piece is not something we can play a role in. It's just whether or not we're supporting their change or we're giving them evidence towards that change.
I basically am interested in whether we could hold some sort of like that. This has to, I'm sure if I find it for my parliament.
I don't even know where college.
I would probably have no idea. But basically having some sort of vote just to see what the general support is. If it seems that we have support for moving forward with immediately going and basically vetoing it and doing so. But I think more than anything, I don't want to start by actually taking a vote on the veto. I think just to see what the climate is, if there is support for that, then we move forward. But I don't know whether that really whether that makes much difference or we should just go straight to it.
Yeah.
I guess my general thought is this gonna put us in potentially a more precarious situation? So I think that's what people are asking. I know you can't answer that question, whatever happens, we can't assert it, that's cool. But are we potentially screwing ourselves over basically by going in one way or another?
I don't know that.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. Quite honestly, we changed some of our officer titles stuff a long time ago, and his position is both student body president, and no one has noticed that yet. And so,
yeah, I think that's what it's like. It's unclear. Like you feel strongly about it in a very particular way. It's like I would hate for you to be in a situation where it's detrimental working in for the work as a whole because you don't have access to certain information that we're like press.
And our duties are different. Our job is to legislate. His job is to execute. And so, if you legislate, the name is changed. It's his responsibility to figure out how to do it. And so, if there's no further discussion, we can either do nothing or someone can make a motion to override.
Since we are about to look at this constitutional amendment and bylaw, once this goes into effect, I'm assuming as soon as we pass it, won't it only sit for 14 days before it becomes a law anyway? Is it coming over? Or
it's a gray zone because it would be, say, it's grandfathered into the old constitution or it's part of the new one. I don't know what to do.
Well, then I'm going to move that we veto.
Override.
Override.
He gets veto power. Is there a second for the motion from Alec to override? From geography. All right, we don't have a ballot set up for this, okay, so it would be one vote per department, and so if there's more than one senator here tonight from the department, please only vote once. And we don't have placards handed out, so we're gonna trust that you are who you say you are when we did this, but all those in favor of overriding Bill 5207, please raise your hand. All those opposed to overriding Bill 5207, please raise your hand. Is there any abstentions? All right, so 52 out of 58 is 2/3. It's 2/3, right? Okay, so the override passes. So 5207, that language is complete. Then, and it's not written in the annual review, but please include anytime you see GPSG, reflect that as GPSG. Moving on, Bill 5208 is our annual review. Our current constitution requires every year our leadership team evaluate the constitution and bylaws and make appropriate changes as we see fit. That has not been done in the past few years, and to be honest, like it's kind of a mess. Like our current constitution says that anytime we pass a constitutional amendment, it needs to be sent out to a student body vote as we deem fit. So this year we've been deeming that fit as this room, like whoever's here gets to vote, because we don't want to send out 8 amendments to the student body until we do it. And to be completely honest, like Congress doesn't need to do that when we amend the Constitution. Like it's a lot. But we need to clarify a lot of things. And so this is our annual review. Background on it, Berna and I were meeting, and then the advisor and I were meeting, and our officer team is meeting. I'm the lead author, so I'm going to step down from the duties of the chair, and I'm going to ask our speaker-elect to assume the duties so that she can facilitate this conversation.
Good evening, everybody. We are going to go through the discussion for the bill because Zane, as being main author, has the first right of discussion.
Right. So the Constitution, the Graduate Professional Student Government will be amended for the last 3 bills. Bill 5203 was stating that we're a nonpartisan organization. Bill 5205 was amending the structure to create an executive and a legislative branch and amending some of our duties as officers. And the one we just passed changed the name and our annual review. These are the major concepts. And so I would like to not read every single word. Everyone's okay with that? It'll take forever. But these are the major things. Like the updated terms based on 5205, which is Senate, senators, officer titles. It added the branches of government and what are the powers and duties within those governments, which we just had a conversation about now. It defines what a graduate professional student organization is. In our previous constitution, there was all this language about if you were a department, you were like tier 1. If you were an interdisciplinary group or a GSO that was representative of diversity groups or international students, you're like the 2nd tier. So we've elevated those to the same status, and then our bylaws describe how to, since departments are already pre-established, what would it look like to become non-departmental GSO. So we just clarified that language. Currently, we're limiting it to 2 senators per department. Right now, it's 3. We're recommending 2 senators, and then departments can list an alternate. This would make it a little more consistent who's coming, and then make it easier to figure out voting and things like that. But we'll have conversations on it. It defined what are the committees within each area. What does our joint governance board look like? Because it was previously called executive board, which doesn't work with 2 branches. And it simplified language about our meetings. It said like business meetings, and special meetings, and emergency meetings. And it's really confusing. Now we have business meetings. And what does it look like to schedule additional business meetings and then an emergency meeting? And then it clarifies the amendment process. So we're going to move through this now.
There was one department that had 14 registered delegates.
So if everyone's good with it, we're going to skip parts that are important and we can have conversation about the pieces that are. And this is linked in the minutes or the agenda, and you can read through it there.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the constitutional section.
So this part we added in our tenants and mission. We'll change the order of it to make it more clear and get started diving into what we do before it said who we are. So this language here can go up. Describes what are the different divisions of our entity. So the legislative branch is responsible for establishing bills and policy for the org. It defines what a bill and a resolution is. A resolution is a non-binding statement of our opinion, or administrators versus the bill is our own entity. And then it defines what the president must do, overriding or in vetoing powers, and the 2/3 override of the Senate to pass it. And then the executive branch has the duties to execute policy that we establish in this entity. So going too fast, you guys want to read it line by line or no? So then a graduate or professional student organization is a department or it's an organization that specifically represents the population of students dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or international student affairs.
So in this particular case, I felt that pretty made it sound like if a department does not have a recognized organization or committee, they don't get senators. So smaller departments are probably going to have enough students to form an actual committee or just aren't organized to the point yet where they can form a committee. It sounds like an exclusion right now.
Yeah, and I think that's vague on purpose. In the bylaws, it talks about if a group hasn't identified who their senators are, then individuals can petition to the team, which is what we do now. Like if you were to show up and your group doesn't have one, then we just don't have it in the Constitution in our bylaws. And ideally, the Constitution is hard to change; it doesn't change often. Versus the bylaws, we might decide in the year we want to do a different process with that. Okay, does that work?
I think so, yeah.
Any other discussion on membership? Article 4. Sorry.
Just a question, not like a criticism, but I'm curious when it comes to like the 2 versus the 3, senators versus delegates, do people who are in like chair or executive positions count like as senators?
As it's currently written, no. So there would need to be another senator representing that department for whoever the chair and the speaker are, or the speaker and the president are.
So we wanted to maybe look at clarifying that because it doesn't make a lot of sense to have like your speaker of your Senate not your senator. That's not real life, but we don't always need to follow real life either. So in this language, we would say an officer or committee chair isn't a senator, that we would probably set them up as a senator, like a workaround until this continues to grow and that's a natural fit. But right now, you don't have to be.
As it stands in the current bylaws, for eligibility, is any member of the department or organization is present to be eligible, but then they won't get the vote.
Any other discussion on membership? Zane, do you want to discuss this, or do we just want to?
Yeah, this is where we're putting in the language about knitting into 2. We just think that it would strengthen what we are instead of 14. We recognize that may need to look differently. That's why we left in the piece about alternates. And it's a little bit vague about what an alternate would look like. So ideally, they're electing there too, and if they need alternates, we have that place. If we decide that we want officers to be senators, we could get this alternate title. We're leaving some vague, which we're reducing the number of
Discussion?
In here, we specifically defined what are the graduate terms. We know there's been some questions about, like, I think the Bush School has some programs where they're like 4+1. So we just said if they have a graduate status on their degree, a G6, 7, or a professional status, we would consider them graduate students. And if it says U, then they're an undergrad, versus trying to get into the weeds about what that looks like.
Right. So this section separates the 2 different primary officers, student body president, speaker, and executive vice president. And then the officers of the legislative branch which includes the speaker and executive vice president with our vice presidents of information, finance, and university affairs. And then clarify some of the terms on the officers' roles. Any point of discussion here?
Before this information was just like spread out throughout the Constitution, so we're just putting it all in the same spot for each one.
Continuing into committee chair and program directors, clarifying their terms. They're not limited to just particular one term, they can be reappointed. And I believe a lot of this new language is just clarifying what is already existing. It's just making sure that it's written in the Constitution, correct?
In the right spots. It was just at the end and it wasn't always clear.
And it describes the role of liaisons, serving into various graduate and professional related interests. Points of discussion.
So this is all for starters, we just moved it out earlier. The advisor piece, we switched because some of the language in there wasn't appropriate. Like you said that the student body president and the speaker like assign duties to the advisor, and that doesn't work that way. So this new language is coming from student affairs. Because it's a either way, it's probably not a place to dictate what that is. So the new language is what student affairs recommended for us to put in.
Okay, Article 6, committees, talks about the governance board, non-voting members, all these different causes, standing ad hoc and special committees. Looks like it directs it to the bylaws. And then Article 7, meetings, meeting of the legislative branch, their Senate meetings. Emergency meetings, that's the clause for that. Meetings of the executive branch, student body led by the student body president for graduate and professional student. Government will be. Article 8, parliamentary authority, granting it to the right of the Senate. Finances, which is the same, right? Constitutional change or approval.
So this part is new. In the past, it said anytime we vote on something, it needs to go out to a vote to the body as a method we keep it. We thought that was a little much. And so the new process we're saying is that anytime we pass the thing, there would be an appeal window where if at least 30 signatures representing at least 2 different graduate student organizations appeal a change that we make, then it would go for an entire vote. So rather than every single time, all it would take is 2 departments getting together and getting enough signatures and then send it out for a vote. And so it's providing the same protections, but it doesn't have the same like overbearing mandate of a vote every single time.
Discussion. Movement. Nullification, just the same. Mostly.
I have a suggestion. So under Article 8 it says speaker, point 3, speaker and executive vice president. So it sounds like there's no way to appeal the decision of the chair.
For financial procedure.
Yeah.
I think it's saying that they're the authority of Harley Pro in the meeting, but appealing the decision of the chair is with the guidebook that we use. So it's maybe unclear. Parliamentary, I think it's supposed to be italicized. The GPSG parliamentary procedure guidelines is a document that we use in this organization. That it's more or less like Robert's Rules of Order and 2 pages. But appeal the chair is written.
Okay.
Good question. Other points of discussion? Scroll down to the bottom. And that's where we're at with the constitutional review. So is there any other discussion for just the constitutional conversation? If not, we will move to the discussion on bylaws.
So big things, we put branches in there, we clarified a lot of language that was confusing, talked about the amendment process, and we defined what bills and resolutions are.
Can you remind me, are there any restrictions on business items at emergency meetings?
I think it's that it's requiring to vote in an emergency meeting. But it says attendance is not mandatory. So if we did not attend, we could vote.
cannot be made mandatory. Does that answer your question, Ben?
No, not really.
Can you restate it?
There's no stated restriction on what business can be considered as an emergency meeting, or whether it is, it can pass business.
Yeah, I guess I would interpret that as it can, because it doesn't say that it cannot. Would it be better to write emergency business meeting?
Yeah, and, I propose an amendment to add an item, I don't know where in this, section, stating that the same rules apply for quorum and, passing business, passing bills and resolutions as, regular business meeting.
Does the regular meetings talk about quorum?
Correct.
I think quorum is addressed in the bylaws, but
Correct.
we could put that in there.
So Ben, are you making a motion or are you still at a point of discussion? Are you wanting to propose an amendment to?
We'll see when we get to the bylaws.
Is there any other points of discussion for the constitutional section? For the essence of time, we'll continue on to the bylaws. Same, the major revisions include.
Okay, sorry, I know this, we'll try to go faster. I don't think this part will take as long. Bylaws are something we can amend here to the rules of our organization. And so it's just a simple majority vote this time, but meant to be revised more frequently. And so this by no means captures everything, and hopefully next year's team continues to work on this. But we updated the same stuff we did in the previous ones. Past language, we fixed some spelling errors throughout the document. We're duplicate items that the bylaws can never conflict with the Constitution, and they were. We split the branches and powers. The big changes are we defined what our election process looks like, and we added in the structure for what has to be in a bill or resolution. So with this one, I wouldn't know that we need to go through everything, because some of it we've already been talking about a lot, like switching General Assembly to Senate. But for sure, those two big pieces about elections and what does a bill or resolution structure look like.
Do we want to discuss section 1? Or continue moving with? As we're scrolling through, please scan, have a point of discussion, let us know. Continue down to the major changes.
This is the piece where it defines how a non-departmental GSO is installed, which isn't changed. This is still the same.
Just clarification of the language. Okay, section 2, committee chairs, program directors, also clarification of the language. Some grammar errors, officers, and liaisons. Article 2, the section for officers, clarifies the election, and section B here.
Yeah, so what we did this year is we required an interview and an application, but they were never evaluated or weighted, so we put those into a weighted process. And so half of the points came from the application and an interview combined. They had to meet with the staff at Student Affairs for an interview, and that was scored, and their application was scored as well. And then vote counted for half of it. All of these documents were there, processes were made more rigorous to help weed people out. And ultimately, the purpose of it was to just weed someone out who maybe staff would feel aren't able to rise to that level of commitment during the year, and make it more challenging to go through. So this is putting it in there. If this process in the future doesn't work, it can certainly be removed. But this is what we followed for this year.
Procedure. Struck some of the language. Restated this part, Zane just summarized. Then we get into the roles of the different vice presidents of information, finance, and university affairs. The removal of officers and office vacancies. This is just language, grammar errors. Description and duties of executive officers.
Yeah, nothing here's different.
Any points of discussion as we're scrolling? Okay. All right, miscellaneous duties and responsibilities. Improve the language. Article 3, committees. Sets aside the section for the governance board, which is in place of the old language, which used to be executive committee, legislative standing committees. And this outlines some of the roles that for our advocacy committee, which includes legislative affairs. And so we've had a couple of discussions on our committees that we've blended those into the 3 that we have right now that are currently standing. This clarifies the language for what the responsibilities for those committees do. Our scholarship committee, and then community. This is just struck language that was replaced into a different section, correctly. Okay. Section 3, ad hoc committees. Section 4, executive standing committees. Disciplinary review. Cleared up some of the language. Keep scrolling. Okay. Article 5, legislation. Numbering, naming, and format of legislation. This talks about the difference between bills and resolutions. The title that we place those in. Again, this is the current structure that we already follow. It just wasn't outlined in our bylaws. Talks about the format.
The big thing we try to do here is saying like we cite things in graduate government, we don't just state our opinions. We've been following anyway, but now it's in the bylaws.
Authorship, presentation of the Senate, to the Senate, excuse me. Voting, interim period, budget. And then we get down to the last section, excuse me, yeah, special definitions where it clears up some of the language. We saw this in the Constitution as well, where we are including all the different delegations for masters, PhD, and professional students. And then in the last section, name changes around language. Do we have any discussion on the bylaws section? Any discussion for the bill as a whole? So including the changes and proposed revisions for B5208, including our constitution and our bylaw review. All right, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. We click on the agenda. We go to section 8, new business. You'll see on the last side of that, it's vote. Please click on that. We need a 2/3 vote to pass the review for our constitution and bylaws. Yes. All right, so working for you. Is anyone still going through the process? Okay. Then what's the result of the vote? Yeah, is anyone still in the process of voting? Okay, please. Oh, you are. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ben. Hang on. You good? Okay. Go ahead and please close the poll.
Opposed? Yeah, 30 votes in favor.
And I'll turn the chair back over to Zane. Whoop, to that.
Okay, we're almost done. Promise. Sorry. All right, that's our new business. Announcements. We have a special meeting on April 30th. We show up, the new officer team will lead it, so I'm really excited about that. If you find yourself in a consensual relationship, please fill out this form, distribute it to people. Please don't start one if you don't need to. And then, if you're looking for counseling or career type resources, there's some workshops that are available. Click on this link to learn more. And then the Young Researchers Conference in Aguilan is June 9th. Is there any other further business that should come before this body of government? Cool. Yeah. All right. Where's okay. Second. Yeah. So geography moves to adjourn. Is there a second? Alex seconds it. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. We're out of here. See you later. Bye.